Lord and stop balking. We taking down these demons, start walking. We need a plan of action, stop talking. We need a plan of action.
The world, and that's China. And China has posed a different type of threat to the establishment as far as I can see. And the reason why is because China is not going to capitulate to anything. They're not going to capitulate to the central banking system. They're not going to capitulate to the global order. They're not going to capitulate to anything because they have a lot of pride. That culture and that world over there, they have a lot of pride in their heritage, their past. They have been down for, they were down for like 100 years and came roaring back, and now they're the superpower. It's evident in this war that we're having right now that we're not the superpower anymore. And they're pretty much laughing at us. We're pretty much the laughing stock of the world right now. And Russia's doing a lot of chuckling as well. They're also doing a lot of threatening. All right. And they understand that we're weak. They understand that we have no business fighting this war, given our whole weapons cache and how depleted we are. All right. They know we're depleted. They understand that we're depleted. They understand that we did a proxy war with Ukraine. But I don't want to talk about that. I'm going to get into that much later. But I'm going to talk about what China is as of right now, as far as the renewable energies and the global energy situation with China. President Trump keeps saying something. He keeps saying China gets about 90% of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz, though. 90% of the oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, so this area gives them 90%, 90, 91, 92. It goes up every day that he talks. It goes up. All right. But that's actually not the case. 37% of the oil or shipments coming out of there is China, which is a massive amount. All right. They're number one by far in the world, and it's not even a close second. All right. So, yes, they do have a lot of oil, but I'm going to tell you this. The LNG, or liquefied natural gas, is 100%. All right. 100% of liquefied natural gas is coming through Strait of Hormuz for China. But here's the thing about China. They don't care. All right. They don't care. Trump said China needs to come in here and help us get this whole Strait of Hormuz situation straightened out. And China was like, no. And why is that? They were like shrugged it off, and they just ignored them. They haven't even said anything or made any statements whatsoever, because they do not care whether or not oil goes bad or not. They don't care if it goes to $300. Why? Because they have been preparing since 2016. And the reason why they started preparing in 2016 is because of the rise of Donald Trump and all the blustering and all the talking and all the going at China and talking bad about them and talking about going to war. They have been preparing, just like the Iranians have been preparing for war. They have been preparing for the whole fuel crisis. And we as a society have not been. We tend to do a lot of fraud in this country. All right. We tend to do a lot of stealing in this country. We tend to do projects, and somehow the money that's going towards the projects end up getting pocketed by the politicians. And this is one of the biggest reasons why we want to go to war with China, because once you start to look into China, and once you start as a country, as a people in this country, start looking towards China, and you start looking at what they're doing in their society, in their country, how their country looks, how their big cities look, how they're rising and raising people out of poverty. When you start to see that, that's exactly why they're going at them. Because once we start to view them as the superpower and saying, hey, isn't that a communist country? Don't they supposed to be doing like really bad? Don't they supposed to have tons and tons of poor people? But we got tons and tons of poor people, high prices, inflation. They don't have any inflation in China. You know why? Because they're responsible with their money. They're responsible with their dollar. They're responsible with their yuan. All right, or UN. They're responsible with it. They don't go out and spend willy-nilly. The politicians don't commit fraud at a high level like we do over here. They don't start wars just to put money in their pocket. You see, that's the situation. Now it's gonna be a long podcast. This is gonna be probably about a 45-minute podcast, and I'm gonna break it all down. I'm gonna tell you why the government is going after China. What's the reason? Why they're so afraid of them? Obviously, they got a hydrogen bomb, and nobody else has a hydrogen bomb in the world. And they have ICBMs that move faster than what we have. All right. So they actually, here's another thing. They actually put their money towards military use. I mean, towards the missiles, towards all the infrastructure in the military. They actually use their money and put it out there and do wise things with it. They're able to manufacture weaponry at a faster clip than we do. We can only manufacture like 4, 5, 6 missiles every 6 months. Right. So their manufacturing capacity has dominates the world. I mean, everybody knows it, right? But here's the thing that I'm trying to get across to you. They, in their society, they don't steal. They don't pocket money. They actually use it to better their society. They use it and put the money into the people. They use it to better their country. You're going to see when I show you these pictures of the country and the things that they're doing and the incredible technology that they have. All right, they got like flying cars. We see it. They got all kinds of things. So they got, you know, incredible technology as far as wind is concerned and solar is concerned. And we created solar. All right, let me get into it.
When it comes to solar power, China is outpacing everyone. Last year, it commissioned as much solar energy as the entire world did in 2022.
The driving that China has done the clean energy economy actually has been really, really beneficial.
Not everyone sees it that way, though. The US, the EU, and other countries are desperate to protect their markets and stay competitive. They're doling out subsidies, promising tax breaks, and placing limits on tariff-free imports. So how did China become so unbeatable? And is that a bad thing?
The first solar panels were invented in America in 1954, and yet it's been China that's been better able to capitalize on the technology.
China was one of the first countries to realize the potential of solar panels. China actually took it and really commercialized it at a large scale.
Now, China controls over 80% of the global solar panel supply chain, while the United States manufactures virtually none of the required components for solar panel production. So to effectively compete with China in solar panel manufacturing, the US is prioritizing building up its supply chain, basically from scratch. Today, the US has less than half of the solar capacity that China does. And of the solar panels that are installed in the US, nearly 4 out of 5 of them are from Chinese companies.
China has such a head start when it comes to solar panel manufacturing is because they dominate the entire global supply chain.
That's because in recent years, China has spent almost 10 times as much on solar manufacturing than the US and the EU combined.
America made the solar panel, and China perfected it. Perfected the manufacturing and perfected the use. China manufactures more than anybody in the world, well, every country in the world combined. And as far as output is concerned, had more output from solar panels as far as energy is concerned than the world combined.
Decide one day, we're going to buy less oil. And to hell with world markets. Apparently, they can. China decided years ago it wanted to control its energy future, rely less on countries like the US for oil, so it began to electrify its economy. To move away from gas-guzzling cars, one think tank figures the Chinese government has pumped well over $200 billion into electric vehicles in the last 15 or so years. Subsidies, tax exemptions, which basically caused the Chinese EV industry to start sprouting like weeds. Nearly 500 companies at peak hype, when executives who'd never run car companies before decided, let's try. Many of them failed. But one, BYD, has now even surpassed Tesla in sales, raking in over $100 billion in revenue last year. China now has more than 14 million charging points countrywide, about 60 times what the US has. But there's more. The 1-2 punch of getting itself off foreign oil was for China to double down on drilling of its own. Imagine wells nearly as deep as Mount Everest is tall. China's answer to ExxonMobil, they're called PetroChina, they spent billions of dollars more than Exxon did last year on major projects. And the International Energy Agency announced just this past June that Chinese demand for outside oil is dropping, and its consumption is going down too. China loathes the idea of being beholden to Donald Trump's every whim, every threat, and relying less on foreign oil is one way to gain the upper hand.
China has been preparing for a long time, a very long time. They look for the future. They look toward the future. They consider themselves like looking into the future 1,000 years. They want China to be around in 1,000 years, right? America will not be around. It won't be in the same form in 1,000 years. But China might have the capacity to do it. And the reason why they have the capacity to do it is because they put their money into their people. They try to raise people out of poverty, and they are proud to do it. In our country, we try to make people poor. We try to put people in poverty. High inflation. Now, we have to put these people in jail. And when I committed fraud, I went to jail. And I deserve to go to jail. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I committed fraud, I went to jail. These people are committing fraud. they must go to jail. I'm going to continue on with this. I'm going to break it down, and I said it in earlier in the podcast that it was going to be 45 minutes, but I'm going to break it down in three videos because people don't have a lot of patience these days. It's like people don't have patience to watch anymore. So I'm going to break it down in a 3-part series. Jimmy Hitchcock, POST, Post, Real Truth. Peace.
Forward and stop balking. We taking down these demons. Start walking. We need a plan of action. Stop talking. We need a plan of